I was born on the Pacific Islands, American Samoa specifically. I didn't really play football until sophomore year of high school. A whiteout game on TV. It was Penn State. I was like, who's Penn State? Like, what am I watching right now? One of the craziest things I've ever seen, but I really don't want anything for myself. I want to win as like a whole team. Like that's, you know what it is, winning the big one.
What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to State Media. I just want to let you guys know this is all made possible because of Family Clothesline. The crew down there does a great job, super supportive, and we can't thank them enough for their partnership. Make sure when you guys are in town, check them out. Got the best gear, freshest stuff, always up to date, super creative. And again, thank you for tuning in.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to this week's Lions Den podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Rappelyea, tight end here. I'm here with this week's guest, Vega Loane. Pleasure having you. You want to say anything, introduce?
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Full name's Vega Loane. I'm a senior and I play offensive line here.
But, all right, so me and V have been here together for, he's going into his fourth year, I'm going to my third, so it's been awesome. It's been a pleasure getting to play with him and get to know him personally and, you know, learn a lot from him. But let's kind of dive back into how everything started with you, V. So what was your childhood experience like, you know, where you're from, where you were raised, you know, kind of how things started to transition into the game for you, you know, if you want to touch on that just a little bit, if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I was born on the Pacific Islands, American Samoa specifically. You know, didn't move to basically America till 2014. Yeah, back then it was a big move for me. And then specifically, you know, I didn't really play football until sophomore year of high school. So you know, it was a long time for me to get into the game. But when I finally got into it, it was a good time.
100%. Would you say with that kind of being introduced to football, was that kind of just something that you being a big old dude was kind of like, all right, this is something I want to do, it's something I could be pretty good at? Or did you have somebody like a mentor or role model that kind of introduced you to it?
Yeah, for sure. Growing up, you know, football was a big sport on the island. We had a bunch of, you know, island guys who made it to the league, you know, that everybody looked up to. But for me, you know, growing up, I wanted to play football, but my mom, you know, my parents, you know, they didn't really want me to play. You know, they told me to focus on school and everything like that. You know, went through middle school, didn't really play football. Freshman year of high school, didn't really play much. And then sophomore year, I was like, you know, I'm gonna go sign up with my own. And signed up, and then, you know, just got into football. You know, loved it. You know, offers and things like that started coming in just like everybody else. You know, that's when things started clicking for me. You know, my mom was like, okay, maybe we'll let you play then. You know, now I'm here.
Would you say, like, with that, not to get into it too much, but I know you've shared some things with us in the locker room and in offensive unit meetings and stuff like that. What would you say was like kind of your motivation? You know, obviously, you said it wasn't an easy childhood at all. So
yeah.
Would you say that, you know, you kind of had somebody, obviously maybe your parents, that was like, this is why I want to do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know you have a nephew now. Your brother's got a,
yeah.
Right, if I'm correct, but you got a little nephew too. So
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Growing up, you know, on the islands, like I said, wasn't an easy thing. You know, my family was, you know, probably the lowest of the lows, you know, in our village, you know, that's what we call it back then. You know, wasn't very fortunate growing up, but, you know, my parents, you know, made it fortunate for us, you know. 100%. Didn't really have much growing up, but, you know, my parents always provided, you know, gave us everything we needed. I have a big family. I got 8 siblings. I'm not the youngest one, so, you know, they made sure I was always taken care of. You know, I was a baby of the family. Rough upbringing, but, you know, that's all part of it. My parents made sure it was a good life to live. So I owe it all to them. You know, they're my biggest motivation for playing this game. My plan is to give it all back to them, you know, whenever the time comes.
100%. And would you say, like, not to get into it quite yet, but, you know, with your recruitment process, obviously, once you came to the States and you know, started to put the things on tape and you kind of knew the talent that you had, what was it with Penn State that kind of stood out to you? Did you have, I mean, I know that I'm sure Washington had a push for you too, just being where you were from. And what was it like, you know, what stood out to you? What was it that Trout did, or, you know, Was it just Penn State? You know what I'm saying? Was it the success the O-line had, or was it a relationship that you had with Trout? Because I know that with my recruiting experience, it was kind of, there were a lot of really good places that you could go to. At, you know, the level of recruit you were, what, you 4-star with what, 30+ offers, something like that?
I was a 3-star with like 12 offers or something like
All
that.
right,
So
we're gonna have to, all right, so I'll repeat that. But you were a solid recruit, 3-star recruit, good bit of offers, and you know it probably came down to some big schools. So what was it kind of to you? What separated that for you? You know what I'm saying? Especially coming across the damn country.
Yeah, I'll go back into it a little bit. Back in like 2016, 17, something like that.
Yeah.
I turned the TV on once, and you know football was on. And funny enough, it was like a whiteout game on TV. It was Penn State. I was like, who's Penn State? Like, what am I watching right now? One of the craziest things I've ever seen. But after that game, you know, Penn State's always was in my mind, but, you know, didn't really think about it much. And then finally got into football. First offer, sophomore year, going into the season was like that summer from University of Washington. You know, growing up, I was like, you know, hometown hero, just like everybody else, and that's what we wanted to be. And so I was committed to them for like 2 years. And then senior year came around, close to signing time. You know, the entire coaching staff got let go. Wasn't sure if that's where I wanted to be, so I opened everything back up. And then, you know, once I got into it, Penn State reached out. You know, everything went well. Talked to Coach Trout. It was a good experience with him. You know, knew he was a great guy from the start. You know, I'm big on family, and that's exactly what he was big on too. So, you know, he made it easy for me. I came out here. You know, I loved it. I loved what Penn State was about, and, you know, they made it easier for me.
100%. And would you say, you know, with your time being here so far, what was that, how have things kind of altered for you in your mindset? You know, first year you come in, you know, you're the young buck. Obviously, you got a lot of talent, but you're behind, you know, X amount of players who are all just as good. And what would you say, like, because I remember having Luke on a couple weeks ago, and I kind of talked to him about his approach to, you know, coming in, and obviously I don't really know the level of football that you came from before college, but I know that, like, for Luke and myself, it was not that good. So you come in, and obviously you have that competitive mindset, and you have that I'm going to go be the best still. But what was kind of your welcome to college football or welcome to college moment? I'm sure you had one where inside run happens, you know, we got that today.
Yeah.
So did you have kind of a welcome to college moment, and, you know, who kind of helped you through those things?
Yeah, when I got here, you know, the mindset was, you know, knowing that there were going to be other guys that were better than me. You know, we repeated a lot, you know, in our facility, talking about, you know, only the good make it further, you know. Like, you're good in high school, that's why you're here. But now when you get here, it's good on good. So it was like the mindset of coming in, working for it, earning everything. And then my welcome to college moment, my first fall camp here, it was like my first ever inside run.
Oh, God.
Inside run with like the 2s. I'm like a 4. I'm like, what are we doing? Yeah, I open pulled and Smith Vilbert.
Oh, Smitty V.
You know
280-pound DM.
Yeah, you know him. He's as solid as it come, man. One of the best players I've ever gone against. You know, open pulled. He's standing there. I'm like, oh, yeah, I've done this, you know, a million times before in high school. It was not like high school anymore. You know, I pulled up. I hit him as hard as I could. He didn't move an inch. Like, he just stood there and stood me up. You know, I hit him, and I stood up. I remember my head just, like, spinning. Yeah, I had no idea what was going on. He gave me my first ever concussion, and that was it. And that was my welcome to college moment. Reminded me that, you know, not everybody it's not high school no more.
It's not,
It's not as easy.
And when you talk about that a little bit, and we see the guys, and, like, we see our locker room, we see really everywhere you go in the country, you kind of see those guys of, like, everybody's got talent coming out of high school, man. There's no denying that. It's like you're the best of the best at your local high school, and then you get brought in. And it's a matter of, like, what are you going to do now? You know, everybody's, like you said, good on good football. You know, you got a lot of players who are, you know, neck and neck with each other in a position or something like that. And, you know, there's the misconception with a lot of kids take their foot off the gas when they get to college. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a very common theme. I wouldn't say our team's like that a whole lot, but I know that, you know, just personally, I know kids who get to college and, you know, their love for the game vanishes, or their love for, you know, the grind and stuff like that, because it really is truly your job now. You know, obviously, I wouldn't want it any other way personally. But I just know that for you, what has kind of been like, did you ever have that moment of, like, you know, shit, like, this is a lot, man. Like, you know, but you're gonna keep going. You know what I'm saying? Did you ever? Because I know for myself, it was kind of, I got in here, I was excited as hell. And I was behind a lot of good guys you played with more than I did, Theo, Ty, and Brenton, and you know, coming in for me, I was just like, okay, this is legit. Like, these guys are good, and like, if I want to be successful here and I want to have an opportunity to play here and contribute, I really got to step my game up and just lock in, invest in the process.
Yeah.
And would you say, like, did you ever have that kind of conversation with yourself, or that realization of, hey, I'm special, dude, like, I can do something with this, but I got to take this to a whole nother level?
Definitely.
Because I think that, not before you answer, just to see you from when I got here to now, like, there's no denying that you took that or had that conversation with yourself at some point.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing for, a college athlete is being honest with yourself and having those hard conversations with yourself before anybody else. Coming in, like I said, you come in thinking, I'm him. I made it this far, so, why not keep going? But it's a very humbling, world, especially in the world of football. There's a lot of hard parts that come into it, mental strain, physical strain. But, I'd say the biggest thing for me was surrounding myself with the right people. I came in with a great group of guys, Dom Ruley, Drew Shelton, you know him. Yeah. Great group of guys to surround myself with. We were going through the dog days of camp with it and dog days of summer workouts and everything like that. It was a big struggle, but, I reminded myself that I'm not the only one going through it. Everybody is. Like, everybody in that locker room is. Yeah. Like, we're all going through the same thing. It's just at different paces, but it's having those conversations with those guys and reminding yourself that you're not alone in it. Like, everybody has their moment, has the bad days, but if you're able to relate on it on a certain level with other guys, that just reminds you that you're not alone. And, just talking about it with those guys, it helped me a lot. It brought me up. Now look at every single one of us. We're in a good spot right now, starters and everything like that. So.
What would you say that's like? Because I talked to, just to go back to it again, like me and one of my key points when I was talking to Luke was just like the misconception of you remove yourself from being in the locker room, being on the team, being in the O-line room, being in the tight end room, whatever it be. You remove yourself from that, and you the misconception of like the tension in your room, like when I remember coming in, I was like, reality was, I was like, I don't remember who it was. I don't remember who it was. I saw a movie or something, and the guy was like, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna tell everybody, like, hey, I'm beating you, I'm taking your job. Like that was an approach that I had in my mind, was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take these guys' jobs. That's something I want to do. But then you're kind of hit with the, you need each other. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need each other to be successful. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I had to go out there and try to do it alone and didn't have Luke and Khalil, like, I couldn't do it. So what's that like, having guys that, we always talk about, quote of the day comes up, you got to rely on the guy to your right and to your left to do his job, knowing that you're going to do your job to be successful. I'm saying, like, what's that like playing in a room where the standard's so high? And I know Trout, like, I've seen those tests before the game, dude. Yeah. We don't, personally, I'm not saying nothing. We don't have, like, ours don't look like theirs, but, you guys are up for hours on hours, starting on, a Tuesday or Wednesday to get these tests in. Yeah. IDing who's what and what play, who's what player, like, all that. Yeah. What's that like, having a standard that's set so high in your room that you really, all you can do is flourish in it, you know what I'm saying? And if you don't want to step up to the plate, then you get left behind. Yeah,
I'd say it's as simple as, like, knowing that the standard is so high that everybody can step up to it, It's relying on those guys to be able to, pick it up where you can't. The competition part about it is one of the biggest things that makes our program so successful, is that it's not only when the season comes around, it's literally winter, summer, and everything like that. Like, guys are competing nonstop, but keeping that tension away from, off the field things. Like, we can go on the field and compete, our butts off, like, nonstop, go as hard as we can. But then when we're off the field, it's like nothing ever happens. Like, we're going out to eat, we're hanging out at somebody's house, just doing
they're
whatever.
Golfing, you're not, right?
Yeah, they're golfing, things like that. But
you don't golf, do you?
Yeah, I don't golf. No, not a big golfer. Trying to get into it though, but
I've never seen you at the course before. That's the infamous words. It's like Todd, my roommate, who I'm always like, yo, Todd, come golfing with me one time. He's like, yeah, we can go to the range. You're never going to the range.
Yeah, I just don't want to go out there and get out competed by everybody else, because I'm not good at it.
Yeah. But so, on that note, a little bit more. So you talked about your relationship with Shelly a little bit. So you live with Drew, and Ruley, right?
Yeah.
Both Drews and Ruley. What's that like, kind of having such a positive household? I know you guys are all pretty, focused on your weekends, kind of staying in. We might be a little bit different in that way, but, like, I know you have a really good living situation. What's that kind of like with the positivity in your house? You know,
Yeah,
QB1, you got Shelly in there, you got Ruley, the special team sergeant. So
yeah, it's a great house to be in. You know, like I said, we came in together.
Yeah,
that was the exact group I came in with.
Have you guys been together the whole time?
Yeah,
Nittany?
yeah, and everything. It was
I thought it was you. It was no, it was because I remember getting cut in your house when I was a freshman.
Yeah, we're a really close group of guys. We came in together, been through a lot. You know, especially me, Shelly, and Dom, and just being like in the O-line room together. You know, we came in, like I said, we'd gone through the dog days of camp together. Like playing O-line is such a specific position to play in. You know, it's very physical, and like I said, the physical strain about it and the mental strain. You got to be, you know, on top of your game every day. Like there's no days you can come in and, you know, not be on top of your game. You know, we've had our struggles, and you know, we've sat around and talked about it for hours on hours, you know, things like that. And that's what built our relationship and got even closer.
Yeah. And kind of on that, just to shift it a little bit. So when you talk about, you know, what it's taken to get to the position and one of the best guards we've had play at Penn State in a long damn time, and just being honest, and what would you say you ever had to get in the position of, like, you know, you're a guy who kind of stays in the house, focuses on what he needs to focus on. There's no denying that. In the facility, extra after hours, doing what you need to do to get your body right. Would you say that, like, we talk about our core values a lot, excuse me, what sacrifices meant to you, and, you know, just being, you know, having to, you know, give up your time to do what you want to do. And that's, I think that's what no denying has built the respect that you have for yourself, or the respect that you've built around your name in our facility. When people talk about the hardest working guys in the room, you know, Doc comes up, you come up, Shelly comes up, you know, just being here in your 4th year now, and, you know, stacking days, almost living the same life and on repeat, just to develop your game to what it is. What, you know, what does sacrifice mean to you? You know, obviously you can go way back to, you know, how you were brought up, but I know that, you know, that's probably something that sticks with you a lot.
Yeah. Sacrifice is something that I've been around my entire life, you know, like going back to my parents. You know, they gave me everything I needed, you know, growing up when we didn't have much. But, you know, I really didn't know the meaning of it until I got here. There's a simple meaning of sacrifice. You got to be willing to sacrifice for what you want, or what you want becomes sacrifice. That was the biggest thing that I've ever learned, and that still sticks with me to this day since my freshman year. It's like, to get what you want, you got to be able to give up something else. You know, that's, you know, going out with friends, things like that after the game, rather than just going to the facility and recovering and getting your body ready for the next day. You know, simple things like that. You know, watching more film when you just be in bed, laying down, you know, sleeping or things like that. But, you know, sacrifice is a big part of football itself, just this game. You got to be willing to give the game more than, you know, you're willing to give yourself.
100%, 100%. And would you say coming in that you had, like, I know for Shelly, he was had a really good relationship with, like, Olu, you know, kind of filled those shoes. Did you have a relationship with an older guy kind of coming in? I know maybe Lean.
Yeah.
Or anybody like that?
Yeah, it was my guy. It was my guy, Lean, bro.
I guess it.
Yeah, he's been here for a long time. He was here, you know.
Just tell full name if you don't.
Salim Wormley.
They're not going to know Lean.
Yeah.
I don't think.
He was here last year. You know, that was his last year. 6-year guy. You know, that was like my biggest mentor. You know, of course there were other guys like Juice Scruggs and guys like those, but yeah, Salim Wormley, you know, he was here for 3 years for me. You know, I learned a lot from him, technique-wise, you know, film, everything like that. You know, he was my guy to talk to when he was here. For sure, do miss the guy. You know, he was one of the funniest guys I've ever met. You know, he'd lighten up the room every time he came in. You know, guys would be down. He'd be in there, you know, cheering everybody up, things like that. So for sure, I do miss him in the room. Big Lean.
And I think that's, like, when you talk about, you know, like, him being an influence for you, and it just kind of shows, like, goes to show, like, here at Penn State, and really, I won't say anywhere in the country, but really here for sure, you see how we just reload, man. You know what I'm saying? Like Big Liam, I had, I think 1 year with him, and it was awesome. I mean, Big Liam was a great guy, all that. But you just see how this guy was running the show for whatever, 5-6 years, you know, damn near 7, that old bastard.
Yeah, he was old.
He was old as hell. But you see, you know, a guy like that just has an influence on the younger group, and then you see a guy like V comes in, fills the shoes, and, like, I mean, look how you're playing now, and then it just goes back and back to the next group. So, like, who knows? You know, obviously I wouldn't say expect anything, your plans for after the season, but I think we all have a pretty good idea what direction you want to go in.
Sure.
But what's that like, now kind of being the vet of the room, and you got all these young guys, you got little Tej coming in from A&M. I'm calling him I hope you see this, TJ. I really do, because I know what you're going to say to me in the locker room. But, having a younger group of guys come in, you got obviously BT's or center, but, just younger guys who, I think for sure that you can say, too, from what I've seen, is like these guys came in spring ball and get their ass kicked.
Yeah.
And now you kind of see them developing. You can see their skip poles kind of coming along and stuff like that. But what's that like, kind of being a vet now? And, I've seen you verbally get on people to hold them to the standard. Like, what's that like, kind of having that responsibility of being a vet in the room?
Yeah, like I said, man, I learned a lot from the older guys. Another guy I would tell you about is Doc. Like, exactly how Nick Dawkins goes. I learned a lot from him from a leadership perspective. And he's one of the best leaders that I've been around. He not only leads on the field, but off the field as well. Another guy would be Shelly. Like, he's a guy that's a vet. He's been a vet for like 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
Played a lot of games as a freshman. But those guys, like, they're never afraid to speak up on things like that. They're never afraid to lead. And that's, I guess that's the biggest part of the old line room coming along, is having guys like those who are willing to lead whatever it needs to be. And big shout out to Coach Trot as well. He influenced a lot of the guys that came through that room, to be where they are now, be who they are. He has a high standard for himself, and that's the biggest thing for us, is seeing him having a high standard for himself makes us do the same thing.
And I think like two things to touch on that. I think that it's really like interesting and to hear freaking about Doc's story here. Obviously didn't go exactly how he wanted the first few years, and you still see the man he's become.
Yeah.
I think that for Nick Dawkins, when you remove himself from just being the starting center here, but like him as a man, he's got his own foundation, charity foundation directed for support, and like the things he does outside of football as a man, what I'm saying, just to get the attention of the public, bring it for the right causes. And I just think that, the dude didn't have exactly what he wanted the first 4 years, if I'm correct here.
Yeah.
And then you see, that never changed him, man. Like I'm saying, like he knew what kind of man he wanted to be, football aside, which for the first time in this conversation, football aside, what he wanted to be. But you see now how this guy's situation, being what it was, never changed what he was going to be or how he led a team. Because I remember, like, Doc was our starting PP on Shield my freshman year, and this dude still had the loudest voice in the room in a respected way. Like, he could say what he wanted, when he wanted, and people were going to listen to him because they knew, like, that's a guy who, like, we don't have, that's something you need more in college football. And I think that's something we're better with this year for sure. So I think years prior we had a lot of guys who led with their performance, but we never had a verbal, like we talked about 2 or 3 years ago when I came in my freshman year. They were saying, I remember Franklin was like, this is the year, dude. We got Olu, we got Drew, we got our running backs, we got Theo and Tyler. Like, well, I just didn't think we had what, kind of like what we have now. I still think it's a continuous chase to have that leadership and that freaking, those role models in the room. And I think that we have some of the best ones they have this year.
Yeah.
And then you also kind of shift to talk about Trout. And, it's bigger than just the players, Like, I know for me, like, Hal's my damn motivation every day, man. Like, I got a guy who's 30, 33, 34, if I'm correct. I don't want to lowball him or highball him, but having a dude who played here, obviously Trout was UF, but, having a guy who played, understands, and knows what it takes to be the best, and just playing under that, I think is like really, really important. And I'm sure you could probably share a little bit on like how just playing for a dude who won a national championship and played with one of the most criminal but very good football teams. Was it 06 Gators, right?
Yeah.
06 Gators.
2008 or something like that? Yeah, I think so.
But whatever it was. But what's that like, what I'm saying? Like having a dude like that.
Having a guy like that who
would literally put his pads on and go kill somebody if he could.
He talks about it every day before going out to practice. Like, he tells us that if he could put the pads on, he would. But it's not him, it's us. So you go out there and play. But, having a guy who knows what it takes to win, who's been a part of that experience of winning it all, is like having a great leader, because he knows exactly what it takes. And, he inputs that mindset into us every day. He reminds us of what it takes and everything like that. And he jokingly brings up the Gators every day. Tells us that these guys did this, these guys did this.
I mean, they were bad team. Man. They were good.
Yeah,
they were
damn good team for sure. But yeah, we joke about it all the time too. Is that like Doc's been here for 6 years, and my freshman year, I came in, he was the most vocal guy in the room, and he still is to this day. You know, I say I learned a lot from him. I truly do mean that because he's been around since I've been here. So.
He's been around a damn long time.
Yeah,
man.
long time.
So, time to start to wrap things up here just a little bit. So when we talk about you being in your 4th year, obviously we all know the goals and aspirations you have for yourself. But when you talk about a routine and talk about maybe how things have changed from year 1, year 2, year 3 to year 4, what has been like, your routine? How have you changed things to really help yourself play more confident and free? Because I said to Luke and I said to Coach Powell, the thing for me, coming back off an injury, my biggest goal was just to be able to play more free, play more confident.
Yeah.
And I think for me, last year, the one game I had under my belt, whatever, one start, I was always like just thinking about things too much. I was always like overthinking it. I knew the playbook. I knew everything I was going to get, reference every call. Yeah. But I'd still, stress and tweak about it. But for me, like, I just don't think about it as much. You know what I'm saying? I just go out there and play. And I think that's been my recipe for my success so far. But I can only imagine what it's like for you. I just, routine-wise, have you changed anything? What have you, what's your approach to a Saturday? And how has that helped you play more confident and free? Because I think there's no denying that you're putting some damn good shit on tape right now.
Like you said, bro.
You can give yourself some props. You got 4 or 5 cakes in a damn game at least.
Yeah. But like you said, man, the biggest part of playing football good is having that confidence in yourself and knowing what you're doing and knowing what you can do when you play. Like last year, it didn't really click for me until like game 4.
Yeah, it took
like
me a while.
when we went out there and started playing, I was questioning myself whether I knew what to do here, how to do it, things like that, knowing if I could beat the guy in front of me. But the mindset of going out there and being like, I know exactly what I'm about to do, and I know exactly where I'm about to take this guy right now. That was like the biggest thing for me. That mindset flipped. Like it changed a lot for me.
And it's just that conversation with myself. Because for me, it was the same thing. It was kind of like, bro, like I'm tired of saying like overthinking what I'm gonna do. Like once I get my hands on somebody and I put somebody in the ground, and then I give myself that confidence boost. If we do it in the first, second drive,
free from there.
Oh, it's over.
Yeah.
Because then you got the whole game just to build on that. Because you started off good. Because for me, it'd be like, damn, I lost that block. Now I gotta make a good one to make up for that one.
Yeah.
But if you start with a good block,
it's just
put somebody in the ground,
just keep on doing it.
Oh yeah, then you just stack it up.
Exactly.
So I think that's like, that's the biggest thing. I think that some people need to have those conversations with themselves, especially still, like there's guys on our team, I would say, that have so much potential, but are just holding themselves back with just trust your training.
Not
you know what I'm saying?
confidence in
That's the big thing I say with myself, and me, Luke, and Khalil talk about a lot. Like Khalil, sometimes he's in his 5th year, he'll still have an occasional little mental mishap. I'm like, Dink, you know this, bro. Like you've been here 5 years, you know all your stuff, bro. Just go out there and play, and you're good.
Exactly.
And I think that's a big thing with obviously for routine-wise, like I don't have a crazy routine. I'd be lying to you if I said I did, but I've been trying to be better with that. Like Thursday night, kind of turn the screens off, put my phone away, watch the tape, really lock in, reference the calls, see the look, see what I'm gonna get here. Am I gonna, wide gutter? Am I gonna go down to the play side 2 middle 3? Am I gonna arc and kick? Stuff like that. Just referencing what I'm gonna do. But I think that's really, something that I've gotten better at, and I know for a fact I've seen you develop with it. And I think that's something that like a lot of guys need to start kind of working on. It's just like, dude, like you look who you're going against every day. Like I can tell you for confidence, we played Oregon this past weekend. Like we play against those level of guys every day in practice.
Yeah.
So like you can do that.
Exactly.
You just have to go out there and do it.
Simple as
and
that.
obviously things didn't shake out the way we wanted, but it was a good game. All things said and done, but. Kind of just to really wrap things up here. So, year 4, you know what I'm saying? Year 4, coming out party. You want this to be, we all know what you want this to be for this. What do you want to be remembered as, V, when you walk out? Maybe, who cares? Obviously, there's a perception of what everybody wants to be remembered of outside of the locker room, but I think it's more important about what your legacy is left in that offensive line room.
For me, man, it's just like being one of the leaders in the room. You know what I mean? It's like setting that example. Like I'm not really big on what I do myself. It's more like how I can make the entire room be remembered. You know what I mean? Like we talk about it all the time. Franklin brings it up, and it's like instilled in my mind. Yeah. Like all those individual things don't come unless we have that team success. So it really doesn't matter.
What does he say? With team success comes individual recognition.
Yeah, simple as that. It's like I really don't want anything for myself. I want to win as like a whole team. Like that's, you know what it is, winning the big one.
100%.
You know, like I want to be remembered as part of that team that won that.
Well, they always say, like, if you win it all that one year, I mean, they talk, obviously, it's unfortunate we talk about the whiteout and stuff, and you win a big game like that, or you win the game that's remembered, you know, like, that's your legacy in itself.
Yeah,
Like, you
definitely.
You could play 2 snaps, you could play 40.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that's big with, you know that if you just handle your business and we handle our business as a team with what you've done as a player, like, everything's going to shake up.
Everything's going to come, yeah.
But, well, I appreciate your time, V.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Chop it up with you, man, and
Yes,
kind of
sir.
talk about your story and talk about, you know, things going forward, and knowing that, you know, you've been a hell of an influence to a lot of guys here. And I ain't trying to say like it's you're heading out anytime soon, because we got a long fucking season.
Long season, man.
But this is Andrew Rappelyea with the Lions Den podcast, and Big V here, and I appreciate him coming on, and I appreciate you all tuning in. So see y'all next week. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.